So the deal with this is leftover parts from 25 to 30 broken fat models that I had purchased either in person, on eBay, and through whatever methods. But that being said, we're going to talk about this right here. This is my CHYRNOBL.
Bringing her here. It's almost like Sokolova took our people to run parts of her operation.
Target close! Just like before. I got him! Here.
Hey, what's up, agents and everybody else who may be checking out this video. Today we're going to head off of our beaten path of Division 2 and sometimes some Destiny gameplay to get more retro. We're going to go more old school. Today I want to specifically talk about the PlayStation 3 and specifically what it's capable of, and talk about my own ultimate PS3. Later on in this video, I'm going to go through maintenance of your own PlayStation if you have one. But before that, I want to talk about what is the ultimate PlayStation 3. Why would somebody even say that? Well, the cool thing is something that Sony had always done, even with the PlayStation 1, and then moving right up to the PlayStation 3, and then they stopped, is they always overbuilt these consoles. In particular, the PlayStation 3 was a Blu-ray player. In fact, they lost money on the consoles initially, knowing that they were going to make that money back with the games. Now, why is the PlayStation 3 such an amazing unit? Well, because it was actually a computer. It wasn't a console. They initially released it with all sorts of bells and whistles that they very soon took away, hardware-wise, and then a lot of the things people were able to do, they took that away via software updates. So now moving on to what is the ultimate PlayStation capable of? Well, using Homebrew technology, it can play basically anything prior to the PS3. You could play every prior version of Nintendo, the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, GameCube, etc. Sega Genesis, Sega Master System. It can play TurboGrafx, it can play Atari, it can play Neo Geo, MAME and other arcade games. And of course it was backwards compatible, so right out the gate without any sort of mods, these things were able to play PS1 and PS2 games. The one issue we have, I'll get into this in a bit, is coincidentally it has issues playing PSP games. That's a whole other can of worms, and I would digress to somebody else who knows more about it. The other thing it can do is it can play movies, whether it's MP4s, DVDs, Blu-rays. You can play music, you can load up your Netflix, your Hulu. It's basically a home entertainment system in that regard. But the biggest one is with Homebrew technologies, we're able to play Homebrew games. We're able to play games off of the hard drive. And you can even play games off of external hard drives, off the USB. And even some games, like I play my Nintendo games off of the compact flash slot. So there's a lot that it can do that way. The other thing, and more importantly, is you can install Homebrew apps after you have jailbroken your system. So this is what this is basically about. It's two different ways of jailbreaking your system. Now, there's the HEN, which is the Homebrew enabler. Now, the cool thing about this is back in the day, the only way to jailbreak your unit was to convert it to 3.55 or earlier official firmware, which would then allow you to install the custom firmware on top of it. Cool thing is now we have HEN, the Homebrew enabler, and this can be found on the Homebrew site. I'll have Brewology .com. The link should be down below. Using this, you can actually convert any PlayStation unit into a homebrew unit. Now, like I said, this will allow you to play games, watch movies, and do everything from your internal hard drive. If you want to hook up an external hard drive, you can expand your library and you can play things off the external. And if you have one of the original units that has the multiple USB or even the card reader slots, you can do a lot of cool things with that. Effectively, the computer also can work as a Linux unit. You can install that directly on it. And one thing that's cool is if you guys want to check out more about this, check out the Condor cluster. This is where the US Air Force hooked up 1,760 PlayStation 3 units and created a supercomputer. That right there should tell you everything that you need to know. Now, why would you want to downgrade your unit? Well, first of all, and mainly it's because of the utility. Because, as I said, Sony overbuilt these units. It was capable of so much in the beginning, and then they quickly took away with that. Now, a lot of it is because, you know, the ability to pirate games, to back up games, and to basically run applications on the PlayStation 3 that Sony didn't want people running. Now, why downgrade your PS3 then? Well, because you can play almost everything prior to the PS3, as we've already alluded to. You can play games without the discs, and you can back up your games. Why would you want to do that? Because it would save the Blu-ray laser. You know, one of the things that can happen if your Blu-ray blows out on your PS3, it's a gigantic paperweight. Well, if you guys happen to have a PS3 around with a broken laser, you can install this HEN, the HEN, and run games directly on your hard drive, and it doesn't even matter. Now, of course, you wouldn't be able to run your games or play the discs without getting a new Blu-ray player, but hey, that's a whole separate thing. The number one reason, though, why I want and I have my PS3 is because so many games now require you to be online. Now, first of all, if you don't have internet access, that's an issue. But the second and the main reason why they do this is to help copyright. They don't want people to be able to pirate their games and play games without being connected, so that way they have power over you. The downside of this too is you can get banned and banned. You cannot play your games anymore. So the other thing is just the library of games that you can have is astounding. I mean, I have every single Nintendo game on my unit. Now, the other thing is, if you like homebrew games, on Brewology, there's a lot of creators that have created their own games, so you can play around with that, install, and try out other games that people make. Hell, you might even create your own games. Now, just to mention some upgrades that we do, hardware-wise, with the old units, they used non-leaded solder, which was a weak point. So all the units that I got, I've had them redone with leaded solder. We've redone the thermal paste on them and replaced all of the thermal pads. This is all in attempts to keep the heat down. The number one killer of these units and the leading cause of the yellow light of death is heat. The other things we do is replace the power supply with either the 226 or the 231. I'll discuss that a little bit later, but these are the most efficient of the power supplies, and this is one way you can help to reduce heat in your unit. Also, I installed 19 blade fans whenever possible. A lot of the old units came with them, a lot of them didn't, and so I've had to acquire them other ways, but the 19 blade fan is one of the best ways to help reduce heat as well. And then you can do some fan mods. You want to be careful with your fan mods, because if you do it incorrectly, it will not pull air across different parts of the unit which need to be cooled. So don't think you're just going to cut a hole in the bottom of your PS3, opening it up to the fan, and that's going to be effective. It's actually could be detrimental to your unit. Now, another thing to help the longevity is in the custom firmware, we're able to use something like Webman or Multiman, and you can go in and actually adjust the controls of your fan and set it up. So I quickly want to go over a few of the cons that you might encounter. Here's one of the reasons that you may not want to go with this unit. First of all, the cost. These things were $599 when they were brand new, and what that means is these units, even a console by itself, having had all of the hardware upgrades, they're still going to run about $500 to get a console. Now, it will have been upgraded so that A, it can better deal with the heat. You shouldn't get your yellow light of death, provided you're following all the steps that you need to safeguard it. And second of all, it's going to have all of these advanced capabilities, and you will get it already ready to rock right out of the box, where it will have things installed on it. You'll probably have some games backed up on it already, and it will have all the advantages that you can get from running a custom firmware system. The other con is that heat kills. So what we do is you need to have the fan moving enough air. So that fan noise may be a bit much for some players. However, a lot of people have a sound system. In my particular case, I got my fan cranked up to 40% all the time. I still really don't hear it because I'm running through a speaker system, and yeah, some of you guys may be using headphones playing that way, so it may not be an issue, but for some people the noise may be an issue. Now, another con is these units are very big, they're very heavy, so that is just basically because the unit was overbuilt right out the gate. And lastly, one of the last cons, and this is just the way it goes, but about half of the PSP games don't play. So it's kind of strange. You're like, wait a second, you got a unit that will literally play almost everything prior to the PS3, but the PlayStation 3 won't play half of the PSP games through emulation. Again, I digress to somebody who knows more about it than me. Now, before you guys go running out and thinking that you have to get yourself one of the CECHA01 or E01 units, if you guys happen to have any version of a PS3 lying around, instead of having to worry about downgrading to the 3.55 official firmware and then going through all the hoops to get it jailbroken, you can go onto Brewology.com, download the hen, and it will effectively convert any PlayStation 3 into a jailbroken unit. Yes, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles of the custom firmware unit, but you can use a unit you already have to do it, to do the majority of these functions and features. Now, for you guys who are interested in an actual custom firmware original PlayStation 3 that is the legitimate computer, you guys can go ahead and contact me. I think I have about 7 or 8 of these units, just the consoles laying around. I'm willing to let those go for about $500 plus any shipping. We need to work that out. And I actually have some bundles left. Any of you guys interested in buying a bundle, I have like a Metal Gear Solid bundle and some other type of bundle laying around. Those will start at about $600. And for anybody who's really interested, I do have one bundle that is a matching unit. What that means is it is an original PS3 CECHA01 with the original box, and as you guys may know, the original boxes had the serial number right on the outside of the box. The serial number of the box and the console match. This unit is in almost perfect condition, no scratches or anything on it, and it comes as the full bundle ready to go. If anybody's interested in picking up either a console or a bundle, feel free to hit me up. Contact me through my drum website, Miah-Pinion.com. There's contact info at the bottom. Hit me up, let me know, and we can try to work something out that way. All right, lastly, before I get into the maintenance and then showing kind of what this unit can do, if you guys want to check out all the different sorts of apps and the wonderful community at Brewology.com, they have basically everything that I do with this, I go through Brewology. I trust the site, and there's just some amazing people on there doing some amazing things with this unit. And any of you guys who are looking to downgrade a PS3, if you already have one, go check out Brewology. The link is down below. I do not in any way promote piracy in any way, but if you guys want to check out a cool site, go check out Vimm.net. This guy has links to ISOs and ROMs for basically all the different units. He has emulators, so if you're on a PC, you can get emulators to play this stuff. And he just has a lot of content. Again, a website that I actually trust to download stuff and not give me a bunch of spam and other busted shit on my on my computer or my PlayStation. And again, if you guys are interested in contacting me directly, go ahead, go to my website, miah-palmer.com. Down at the bottom, there's a contact. Let me know what you guys are dealing with, or if you guys are interested in one of these units. And just so you guys know, why am I doing this? Why am I not selling this on eBay? Well, for the same reason I cannot accept PayPal. I was selling these units and Sony got a hold of eBay. I now have a perma-ban from eBay, and I have a perma-ban from PayPal. So I can accept Venmo, but, and coincidentally, Venmo, I believe, is owned by the eBay PayPal guys, but for some reason that still works. So perma-bans suck. Anyway, guys, so that's a quick overview of the Ultimate PS3. Now I'm going to show you guys my CHYRNOBL, which is my own personal PS3. It's a portable version. I'm going to go through the maintenance on it, and then after that, I'm going to quickly go through some of the things and show you what it can actually do. Hey, thank you so much for checking this out. Do me a favor, if you guys learned anything new or appreciate this, a like would be greatly appreciated. Hopefully by now I've earned you guys subscriptions. Best thing you guys can do to help my channel is to share this video and leave any comments down below. All right, moving on to the maintenance section. All right, so let's start with the outside overview. So the deal with this is leftover parts from 25 to 30 broken fat models that I had purchased either in person, on eBay, and through whatever methods. I was buying these, I was sending to a guy who was reballing them with the lead solder, the ball grid array solder. And then there was another guy who I would send these to who would downgrade these to 3.55, the official firmware. I don't even believe that you need to do that anymore. In fact, I believe there's a way to basically jailbreak any one of these systems now. However, for many reasons, which you will see as we get into this, this is still my preferred PlayStation. So, you know, while you can do a lot of cool stuff with the slim models and things, this was basically a computer inside of a PS3. You guys can look into GeoHot. You guys know who that is? He's the guy, one of the first people that ever jailbroke these and really found out what these things are capable of. But that being said, we're going to talk about this right here. This is my CHYRNOBL. And this is, well, like I said, it's just a bunch of leftover pieces that I wanted to see if I could build a system with. And, well, ultimately became my ultimate system. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what this specific unit has. You know, one of, if not the biggest issue these PlayStations had, of course, was the heating issues. And so we want to try to minimize the amount of heat at all times. Now, if we flip this to the back side, this is where it starts to get interesting. Or some people call this the bottom, depending on how you have your system. Given the way I have it, of course, we have to go vertical. I cannot go horizontal. I drilled this out. I did a template, basically like a snowflake-looking template that I drill out so that it can pull air in. Upon doing testing, it brings overall the temperature down about 1.3 degrees centigrade, but that is 1 degree cooler. So this mod, I don't think it's necessary. In fact, if you have a good quality PlayStation, the case is not damaged at all, I would not recommend doing this. I would keep it just the way it is. But if you do want a little extra cooling, this is pretty awesome. Now the other thing you'll see is, what the heck is this? It says CHYRNOBL on it. This is a 1.5 terabyte hard drive. Now I could upgrade to solid state drives, the SSDs. I wanted to use stuff I had around. Again, this is basically, I wanted to do this and not have it cost me anything. I wanted to have parts that are laying around. So internally, we have a 1 terabyte hard drive, and on the outside, we have a 1.5 terabyte hard drive. This just runs around to the front here, and the cool thing is, if I want, and I want to make it more travel friendly, I take this off, I can leave this at home. I still have 1 terabyte inside to go ahead and have whatever games I want. Well, we'll get more into that in a bit here. So now the other thing we'll notice on the front is I do have a USB. And this particular one, you know, you could use whatever. I have an adapter one, so I have a 32 gigabyte here. This is where I have a lot of my PlayStation 1 games and all of my Nintendo games. All the earlier retro units are on here because 32 gigabytes can basically cover the entire catalog. Now, I do have all of that backed up on both of these drives too, just in case. But, you know, just to show how awesome it is, I just wanted to show you. So we can run games directly off this USB. Now, in addition, only the first three models, the A, the B, and the E. We're not going to talk about the B because that's a piece of shit. But this is an A model. Now, we have a compact flash drive. In my case, I have two different drives here. This is where I keep my 3.5 official firmware, and all the different backups and everything is on here. Just in case anything goes awry, I have this to go back and try to fix it. I have the mini SSD adapter here. Again, we can load content, pictures, videos, and even play certain games off of this. One thing to note is this reader right here is a little bit more finicky. So if you are trying to play games off this and you're having issues, you may have to put it onto your hard drive internally, and you may be able to play it through the USB slots in the front. And last, we got this guy right here, the Memory Stick Pro Duo. And again, I just went to an adapter to the micro SDs. I do everything off of micro SD because it's easier to use. This one has a bunch of save files for old games and stuff like that. So when I need to load up old save files, there they are. All right, so one of the first things I do when I'm cleaning it is I'm going to take off the hard drive. We're going to take off the USB. And you do not need to take these guys out. So we're going to leave those right in there. Now, normally there would be, where I have this pad here, there'd be a screw holding this in. I want to be able to take it off easily. You guys will see, I even went ahead and painted inside here just because. And this is where you could see some of the damage. At one point, this unit, somebody had actually super glued the cover onto their machine. Why they would do that, I have no idea in the world. So when I got it, turns out the only reason they couldn't do anything with it to fix it, it was having an overheating problem, and that particular unit was just filled with dust because they couldn't clean it out. So cleanliness is next to godliness with these guys. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take a few moments to open this guy up. This one could be a pain if you have a magnet. That's easy to get out. Otherwise, I just wait and take that out after I get everything else undone. Normally there would be a 7th screw right here, but the little piece inside broke off, so we do not have that. Now, just grab it from the back, straight up, and inside here, we got to, you can either disconnect right here, or I'm going to take it off right at the board down here. Pop this little guy up, pop this out, boom. So this will pop straight on out. It's real easy to get out if you need to and change that out. You guys can see there's a little bit of dust in here, so we're going to be addressing that in a bit. All right, so now we're on the internals of the machine. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to remove the Blu-ray player. You're going to unplug it here, and then flip up. This is the number one thing that gets damaged. This is the number one spot you want to be careful. And that is where this connector is right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little tiny screwdriver, carefully lift that guy up. This can break off very easily. And if you break that off, you will have to find a way to tape it down. Some people will take a little rod or something, put it under this metal from here to here to hold it down. But just try to be careful. As soon as that breaks, you're going to have issues. Another thing to note about these Blu-ray players cannot just be swapped out without switching out this daughter board. This daughter board is essentially married to the motherboard. And if for any reason you do not have this, then you're going to have to go through the steps. You'll have to get somebody to actually physically hook this up to a computer and get these to match up with each other. I don't even know how that happens. So no matter what, if you need to swap out your Blu-ray player, make sure to take your daughter board off and save that, because you'll need to put that onto your new Blu-ray player. Now, one of the cool things is the way this machine works. Theoretically, if your Blu-ray player blows up, you can play everything off the hard drive anyway. The only thing we really needed the Blu-ray player for anymore, well, obviously if we want to watch some Blu-ray CDs or something, we can use it for that, but to burn games. And you know, I in no way support piracy, but there's definitely ways of getting games and then being able to play them off the system without the Blu-ray player. In fact, there's a lot of software that literally says no Blu-ray, and it's meant to run without the Blu-ray player. All right, so we're going to carefully set this down. All right, next, we're going to go ahead and just take a couple little pieces off. This is our Wi-Fi right here. Pop off this one screw here. Carefully pop this guy off. We're going to just take off the power on and the eject button. It's connected with 4 screws. 2 of them are the ones that actually hold the system together, the motherboard. All right, next we're going to go ahead and take off the Wi-Fi board right here, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So this one also, this has the potential of 4 screws holding it down. I only have 2 in here because I just don't need the other 2, and I take it apart often. Theoretically, I could pop 2 more screws in there if I wanted to. All right, so this pulls away. Same thing. This has another one of those little levers that you have to be careful. Carefully lift that up. Boom. This comes off. Again, a little dusty there, so we're going to clean that in a bit. Now, the power supply. And I want to quickly talk about the power supply. So, what you see here is the APS-231. This is the coolest running of the power supplies. However, there is one issue with this power supply that I have. I'm considering swapping to the APS-226, which is thought to be the better power supply. And why, despite the fact that it does run a little bit hotter, it does put out more power. And this one, in fact, I just had it happen last night while I was playing. Sometimes, if you're playing an intense game with a lot of things going on, this power supply can just shut off. And you'll suddenly think that maybe you got your yellow light of death because it just totally shuts off. The red light will be flashing, but all you do is restart it, and you lose a little bit of game time and stuff. I personally have this in here because I think just having it running cooler, I no matter what want to save my PlayStation. I would rather have a little bit of lost time playing a game than have my unit actually blow up. So I go with the 231, but it is commonly thought that the 226 is the better power supply. And I may even swap it out at some point. I have a couple of them in my storage, so down the road I may swap that out. All right, so what we're gonna do now is start taking the power supply out. We do have this connection right here. We pulled that guy out right there. This is the ground. I forgot about the ground. All right. So now we're going straight up, and you guys notice as we come up, there's some pins. So we got to come straight on up with it. Now I'm going to disconnect that, and there is our power supply. All right, so as most things, you want to clean the power supply. This APS-231, you don't come across these very often, actually. They're not well used. And this one, you guys can see, this actually was from a unit that had had some water damage. Thus, you can see a little bit of rust on it. If it looks like there's a little bit of rust on there, it's because there is. The last thing we have left to do is to take the actual motherboard out. So we're gonna have quite a few screws to do this. I'm looking up, no, we got one more right over here. Hidden right under the power supply input. All right, now that being said, if everything is good, I should be able to flip it over and then carefully. Oh, I forgot to take off. Luckily, it didn't break. Make sure to take off your hard drive door before you do what I just did, because there is a chance you could break it. All right, there we go. So this is our inner case. And the funny thing is actually you can see this is not, despite how much gameplay I have, it's not too dirty at all. This is actually looking pretty clean. And now you guys can see the job that I did, the snowflake. That's how we cut it out for the fan and to get that extra air pulled in there. All right, guys, so what I want to do is I want to actually clean the fan itself. So we got the good old 19 blade fan. Let me go ahead and pull this out. I believe the other option was a 15, and the 15 was nowhere near as efficient. I mean, it was from the testing that I saw online, there was a significant difference, and the 19 is way better. And I've even heard that it's possible to, I think it was the 17, you guys can let me know if I'm incorrect, but there's one of the newer models from the Slims that will fit in here that is even more efficient than this guy if you put it in. So here we go, we got our fan out, and you guys can see our good old 19 blade fan, and actually that's looking pretty clean, pretty good. So one thing is about doing this is keeping it in a nice ventilated area. It actually stays pretty clean and pretty cool. All right, looking on the inside, it's really not that dirty at all. It's actually looking pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is, just to make sure, we're gonna go ahead and pull off bam, there we go. All right. So this is all set. You can probably see there's a little blue. I changed out all the thermal pads in it, of course. We swapped out the thermal paste. Basically everything that could have been swapped out in this has been. So at this point, we're at the point where all I have to do now is pull out my vacuum, clean this guy up, and we're ready to reassemble it. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, so this is gonna be loud, so hopefully I'm smart enough to play some music in the background. You guys just don't hear the vacuum going the whole time. But you guys can watch and see, or skip ahead if you already know how to do this. One thing to quickly mention with this guy is you want to pay close attention. All these little holes here, this is where the air is going in, so you should be able to put the vacuum on there and hopefully suck a lot of the crap out of it. Luckily mine, since I clean it fairly often, is looking pretty good. No complaints there. So now we're just going to clean up everything else real quick and then throw it back together. Another quick thing to note, guys, is the handle, how I have the handle in. This is just a standard piece of material that's just been tied off. And then I burned it and kind of fused it together to make sure that it never becomes untied. Last thing you would want to be carrying your good old Ultimate PlayStation down the street and have it fall and just shatter right in front of your eyes, right? So just want to show you guys how I did that. All right, so cleaning is actually not very bad, especially if you do this often, like I do. You guys, I mean, you can probably see there's hardly any dust on it. It's also, you know, where do you put it? Do are you putting your PlayStation someplace where it's next to a window where it's going to be sucking in a lot of outside smog, lint, dirt, you know, whatever. And if you keep your PlayStation clean, it will. It's amazing how quickly it is to do this. Also, if you do take your PlayStation apart to clean it often, you become pretty quick at it. I mean, I could take this thing apart, put it back together in less than 10 minutes if I'm not trying to do a video on it. So it's super easy to do. All right, time to put this bad boy back together. One thing to note while you are vacuuming, be careful. Certain things on this are delicate. You don't want to damage anything on any of the open circuit boards. You don't want to accidentally pull anything off. And like in the case of the power and eject button, it is very easy to damage these little tabs here. And luckily I have a bunch of them. Some of them, they're just totally messed up and I can't even get them back to where they would work again. So just kind of be careful as you are vacuuming, as you don't want to damage anything. All right, so first of all, before putting this back in the case, we have to add the power supply back on. Get this, line that up. Get the cables out of the way. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. There we go. Bam. Make sure we're nice and solid on the bottom. There we go. All right. Don't forget to plug the fan in. That could be bad if you don't. Last internal piece to put on. And now again, the most sensitive area is this little guy right here. So I'm going to very carefully lift it up into position. Line this up, get this in there, nice and gently. Gently close it down. And boom. Put the Blu-ray player back in, slide the cable under there, and now we have our unit basically ready to go back together. One thing to note about the card reader can be actually installed directly on here. You guys see it has actually room for screws and it can be installed. The problem is when you go to take this off, it causes some issues, so I recommend just keeping it up in here. And the last hard part is getting this ribbon down in this little slot down here. It's not too bad, but if you got big hands like I do, it could be a little tricky. Boom. Get it on in there, and then... Now, hook your hooks at the very front. There's some guides. So you should be able to just hit it on, and then it should just close right back up. Alright, now all we have left to do is drop all of our screws in. And on this case, I do not over tighten any of these. I can just get it till it's snug. No reason to go tighter than that. On mine, this one already has some damage because, well, you guys know, I put this together from broken parts. Get our hard drive cover back on. Got our top cover. Boom. Get our good old hard drive. So this is just, I just got standard Velcro tape, and I did add, I super glued it on because otherwise they wouldn't stay on. Since it's already a damaged case, I don't care about damaging it. Again, if you have a really good condition PlayStation 3, you wouldn't want to do any of this and damage your case, so you could just set it off to the side here. And lastly, we got our USB. Pop that guy in. Bam. CHYRNOBL is back up and ready to rock and roll. So the only other thing to do now is to fire it up, make sure everything works, and then show you guys what this system can actually do. We got the PlayStation hooked up, and let's go ahead and just see what sort of things we can do with this. So, now I apologize, guys. I do have this fan turned on, so it is pretty high. I tend to play across the room. I'm nowhere near it, so this fan and the fact that I always have my stereo going when I'm playing, the fan is, this is acceptable levels to me. You guys may not be stoked with it this loud, but for me it's fine. Alright, so right away, you guys notice this looks pretty normal, right? Pretty normal stuff. But you notice we got debug settings here, right? And so there's going to be some other things that you normally wouldn't see here. It's because we're running the EvilNat firmware right now. I'll show you guys that in a second here. Backup data, another, again, it lists the USB device. So this has movies and it can read. Check out the different movies. We'll go ahead and bust some Evil Dead here just to show you guys. So it'll allow you to watch your MP4s and you know, depending on the different software you install, probably other movie types. Bam. So all right. So you know, you can stores many of the little movies here. I got a bunch of other ones too that we could put on here, but try to save that space, you know. You got the video services and stuff. I will talk more about these in a minute here. These are totally legit. But here's the main thing. So you got all these different utilities now. But here's the big one: is you get your package manager. You can install and delete files, and then as you install them, we got our webman. This is one of the main things, so you guys will notice that if we go in here, and you'll notice that this gives us the location. So hard drive HDD0, that's the internal drive that it would be pulling these from. And you'll notice all of this is pulled from the internal. Got the PlayStation 1 games all up on here too. So we got our Symphony of the Night. I don't know why Dark Zone is using Castlevania thumbnail. That's kind of weird, but it's always been like that. Some of these don't have thumbnails. A lot of them don't. Alright, just to go through this real quick, the main stuff we got, you got a bunch of utility stuff here to be able to save games and things like that. You got your package manager and your webman games. The package manager is what will initially allow us to install. I'll show a demonstration of that in a moment. You got SEN enabler. This will allow you to change a bunch of custom things, hide your IP address, things like that. Nestopia, I don't need because I have RetroArch, but I wanted to show you guys. You can play your Nintendo games. Here, let's just click into Nestopia real quick. Some of these become outdated, so you can come in here. We can do something like go to our hard disk drive, or you know what? Here, let's go to this. So this is our external hard drive, right? And let's say we want to go to NES games, and let's say we want to do, let's do something right out the gate. But what's something that people know? Asenax. Let's see. So, yeah, and we're playing some Asenax. Alright, let's turn that volume down a little bit. So yeah, Nestopia works just that easy. You got your PS2 Classics placeholder. You guys might have to use this. Sometimes, I haven't encountered any problems loading up any PS2 games from Webman or Multiman. So if you do have any issues, you know, you may have to open it through this, so I have it there just in case. The PSP launcher, the same thing when you launch the PS games. In fact, let's go ahead and why don't we try one of the PS games? Let's see. If I go to Webman, we'll try Webman before the other. So I go Final Fantasy Tactics. All right, it was loaded, and notice it automatically goes to the PS game. All right, now we go. So the PSP launcher is now processing, and if all works out, we should see War of the Lions. Bam, there it is. So you can see some PSP games do work. So this is where I'd have to create utility in order to do it. But if I go load in, check it out. It loads up just like the original. So no issues here. Actually looks pretty darn good. The funny thing is, you guys notice the screen is shifted off, so that's a little weird. That's just because the aspect ratio being different. All right. Anyway, so that is the PSP launcher. Now, RetroArch is pretty much where most of the fun comes in. When you load up at RetroArch, this is what will essentially give you the options to play any old system stuff. So if we go into core here, this is our main page here. You got the different options. Real quick, I'll look at the content history. So this is cool because it just keeps track of all the different games you play. These are all the games I played in the somewhat recent past. You can just go onto it. Let's check out the cores. This is the difference. So check it out. You got arcade. This is the standard MAME sort of thing. Old school. You got the Atari 2600. These right here are all essentially emulators. Right? So we got the Game Boy Color. We got Game Boy Advanced. Bunch of different MAME things. This is arcade stuff. We got Nintendo, the NES stuff. You got Sega, this is basically all the Sega systems right here. We got the Super NES and the Super Famicom. Again, some more Super NES stuff right here. Right, Jaguar, and you know, all of these are just different video game things. I would imagine one of these has to be TurboGrafx of some sort, I would imagine. But yeah, so we could basically, anything that you can get the games for, this is how you would load them up. And let's see, let's go with the Super Nintendo real quick, just so you guys can see. Let's say we go with Super Nintendo as our core. Okay, load content, and let's say Super Nintendo games. This is a lot easier. And now let's say I wanted to load up my Chrono Trigger. Bam. Here we go. So that's how you can basically play all of your older, well, any older games prior to the PS3. Now there's one other thing that I want to show you guys. Let's say we want to play a game that's only online. Okay? So say I want to play Destiny, but I don't want to be banned. This is just a very short additional process. What I'm going to do is, so I'm loading up Multiman, and I'm choosing Destiny. And why I choose Multiman over Webman, Webman automatically loads the games. Multiman, Cobra Mode, puts it in, you guys will see, it's basically, it treats it as if it's its own disc. So that's going to sit here. So what we do now before signing in is I go to my PSN patch. And now this is the stealth version. What we do is go in here, and this has a lot of different options, but there's only one thing that we need to do. And that you'll notice down at the bottom, there's the spoof, IDPS and PSID, disable custom firmware and exit, and spoof, IPS, PSD, and disable custom firmware. All I do is hit the triangle, disable custom firmware and exit. And what this is going to do now is this is going to remove all the custom firmware. And what that means is I have to restart the unit to get it back. So now it's functioning straight up as a legitimate PlayStation unit without any, you'll see if I go here, there's an error because it doesn't know how to run it because we're back on what it believes to be official firmware. So now I can come in, I can sign in. Bam, we're signed in, and now I can go up to Destiny, and we're going to skip ahead because it's going to take a bit to load because it is the PlayStation 3. Sorry guys, this camera doesn't do very good catching this, so we're just going to quickly load in. Just so you guys can see though, it does. Wow, dude, camera. Alright, as you guys can see, we're totally in the game, we're launching, and you can totally sign into PSN and play the game. The only caveat is if I want to swap games, I simply have to go in and we got to turn off or reset the system. Evil Nap fires up and we are back on custom firmware. Alright guys, the last thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show quickly how easy it is to install new stuff on there. I'm actually going to put the Ultimate Toolbox on here now. They say this one has a few extra steps, so we're going to find out. And I'm going to see, hopefully this is going to be as cool as they recommend. This is a newer sort of thing. So I got my little USB that has all my cool stuff on here. Just pop it right on in. Alright everybody, so we are just finishing up installing the new Ultimate Toolbox. This is something new to me, and I just wanted to show how easy it is to install stuff and then be rocking and rolling once you have your custom firmware set. I believe if you have the Homebrew enabler, it's very similar. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly go through and show you guys what the system can do. Alright, install complete. Where are we going to have that at? Run this to complete the installation. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, let's run it. Hopefully we don't brick our unit right now. Alright. Now we got our toolbox. Just make sure that opens up okay before we move on with this. Power options, backup utility, file explorer, firmware settings, content, built-in applications. Hey, looks like we got a bunch of cool stuff here. All right, cool. Let's do this. If I go into All right, and using the L1 and R1, we can scroll through different ways of looking at this guy. So depending on how you want to see your games. Cool little backgrounds and stuff. This one's got the XMB, you can see at the top there. At the bottom of the screen, you guys see it shows us some information like the hard disk drive, how much is available. You guys can see my internal drive. I still have 518 gigabytes available. On the external 1.5 terabyte, we still have 408 gigabytes available. You know, some of these games have two different versions there. One's on the hard drive, one's on the USB.
Area secure. I'll send someone to bring Lauren back to the castle. You can meet her there.
All right, hey, thank you so much for any of you guys that made it all the way through my video here. I love this PlayStation 3, and moving on down the road, I may upgrade to a PC. I don't think I'm going to get the PS5. I think if anything, I'm going to move onto a gaming computer, learn how to use the mouse and keyboard, go that route. But I think the PlayStation 3 is probably going to go down as my all-time favorite unit, my favorite console, just because it is so damn awesome, and I've had so much fun messing with this thing through the years. And just the community over there at Brewology and everything that they figured out about this and everything that they're still figuring out is amazing. Definitely check that out. You guys be as safe as you need to be out there, and I will check you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.